Good morning, all of you. The topic for today's discussion is nutraceuticals. Okay, so the desire to take a medicines in one frame, that is the one feature that will distinguish a man and an animal with his fellow creatures. This was well said by the Sir William Osler. So, depending upon this quote, we are going to discuss what are the nutraceuticals. Getting back to the introduction, okay, after the introduction of the modern pharmaceutical agents, the ancient remedies they took backseat. So nowadays we have a many modern pharmacological agents. Every day new drugs are launched and new pharmaceuticals or new nutraceuticals are launched. Okay. So recent FDA testimony, they have given a dietary supplements including the vitamins, okay, and that is more than half of the populations. In 2000, the total dietary supplements market included in the 32% of the herbals and 38% as the vitamins. So, what is the difference between these three important things which are included in the dietary nutraceuticals? That is dietary supplements, functional foods, and nutraceuticals. So, dietary supplement is a product, okay, that is intended for the supplement the diet and that bears or contains one or more of the following dietary ingredients. It may be vitamin, it may be mineral, or it may be herb, or any other botanical or the amino acid preparations. Okay, it may be dietary substance which is used by man to supplement the diet. Okay, maybe it may be included in the diet to increase the total dietary intake, or maybe concentrate, or maybe metabolite or extract of all the different types of combinations or the ingredients. It may be available as a pill, tablet, capsule, or the liquid form. This is a dietary supplement. Okay, it may be vitamin or mineral or any other herb or botanical product. Okay, then we have a functional food. So functional foods, these are not dietary supplements. Okay, so I rather these are the normal diet part of the normal diet. Okay, and that will deliver the one or more active ingredients. They have a physiological effect and they will enhance the health when they will mixed with the food. Okay, for example, like soya isoflavones in the soya beans. Okay, they will inhibit or they will prevent the coronary heart disease, osteoporosis, breast and prostate cancers. So dietary supplements herbs in particular, these are time tested and they are scientifically unproven, while the functional foods, they are the components of the normal human diet and they have a rigorous science studies, and these are valuable for the maintaining the human health. Okay, the nutraceuticals, these are the food with the specific health and the medical benefits. Some chemicals or that have a beneficial effects, for example pharmacological effects, or our physiologically if they are taken in the appropriate amount with the food. A dietary supplement that delivers a concentrated form of the biological active component of the food in a non-food matrix to enhance the health. Okay, so these are the some vague definitions of the nutraceuticals, and in different article these are different, these the definition we find it in a different way. Okay, but this nutraceutical is a term which is not recognized by FDA. So it was coined, the first the nutraceutical, which is coined by Foundation for the Innovative Medicine. Okay, and which includes the foods, dietary supplements, medical foods that have the health medical benefit that will prevent the disease, as well as that can be used as a treatment of the disease. Okay, like we can see there are some benefits of the vitamin E and the folic acid of the pill, if it is used in the pill or in the cereal. So let's study what are the agents which are used under the category nutraceuticals. So here we have examples like fortified foods, cereals, like which contains the zinc and the iron. Then we have a vitamin and mineral supplements, botanical supplements, prebiotics or probiotics, then additional supplements like cod liver oil and amino acids and protein supplements, and the drinks which contains the caffeine or the isotonic drinks which contains the salts and sugars. So let's start with the first example, that is fortified cereals, which includes iron and zinc. So cereals, while studying, we always find two terminologies. These are the enrichment and fortification. So what is enrichment? So enrichment, when it is done to restore the nutrients which are lost in the food processing. When we process the food, for example rice stapling and all, we lost some nutrients, and some nutrients for the are added to that, that is enrichment. And what is fortification? To add the nutrients that may not be present naturally in the food, that is fortification. Okay, so that is a basic difference. So all these enrichment as well as fortification, they are called as a nutrification. So what is the criteria for fortification? It should be the staple food for the target population. It should be staple food. The color, taste and odor appearance of the carrier must not be affected. It should have a good availability, for example iron. It should not significantly increase the total cost of the final product, and it should be stable, like we can store it for a longer duration. For example, like vitamin C is highly unstable at the high temperature and humid conditions, we cannot use for the fortification. Okay, so it should be stable for a longer duration. Monitoring and control system will guarantee both adequate and the nutrient concentration, and that will again influence the program compliance and effectiveness of that intervention. So we can see here many examples are there, like salt, most common, iodine, iron, fluor. In milk or margarine, vitamin A and D. In tea, vitamin A. Vegetable mixtures, amino acid, proteins, minerals they have given. Soya milk, orange juice, calcium is fortified. Okay, so there are very different types of examples. Okay, a second is a vitamin and the mineral supplements. So what are these? Okay, so these are the there is a minimum level or the minimum dietary supplement level given by the RDA or the FDA. Okay, and that is around 15% of the recommended dietary allowance. Okay, so around 15% of the our dietary supplement should be a vitamin and mineral supplements. So upper severe level is decided by the scientific risk assessment based on the generally acceptable scientific data. It can be like tablets, capsules, gel caps, liquids or fortified foods. Now we have a different types of minerals. Okay, for example say calcium. So calcium is usually prescribed for the postmenopausal woman, lactose intolerant and vegetarian person, because they have a increased risk of the osteoporosis. Okay, so whenever there is increased risk of the osteoporosis, we will give a calcium to the patient of postmenopausal age group. That will reduce the blood pressure. Again, that will reduce the risk of the colon cancer and the increase the risk of the prostate cancer in some studies, but that is a questionable. Okay, decrease risk of the calcium oxalate kidney stones. Iron is most important mineral which is given to the pregnant woman, preterm, low birth weight infant, older infants, toddlers, women of the childbearing age group, especially those with the high menstrual losses. Okay, people with the renal failure, then people with the GI disorders, that in the patients who cannot absorb the iron orally, like gastrectomy or gastric carcinoma. In that cases, we can stimulate the activity of the free radicals, and there is increased risk of the cardiovascular diseases. So in these patients we can give the iron. Then magnesium. Whenever there is a diet high in the magnesium, potassium and calcium, or low in the sodium or fat, that will decrease the blood pressure. So automatically the diet, the magnesium in the diet will have a effect on the blood pressure. That will also reduce the risk of the diabetes and the stroke. Okay, and it is also given in the postmenopausal osteoporosis. So zinc, inadequate calorie intake, or the alcoholism or digestive diseases, or vegetarians or children, they have the increased risk of the deficiency of the zinc. So zinc is associated with the decreased immune function. Okay, because this zinc will, what the zinc is doing, it will increase the circulating T cells, and that will increase the killing capacity of the lymphocytes. Okay, so whenever there is a zinc deficiency, this is associated with the depressed immune function or the depressed immune system. Okay, so in COVID era, you must be all aware of the zinc tablets, why this is given to the COVID patients. Okay, so we can see there is a reduce, after taking a zinc, there is a reduced incidence of common cold. Folate and vitamin B12. Okay, whenever there is a decreased low blood level of homocysteine, okay, decreased reduction in the cardiovascular diseases, that needs to be evaluated. So for that, the folate and vitamin B12 is required. Vitamin A, these are the foods rich in beta carotene. They will decrease the risk of the lung cancer. Okay, excess intake associated with the osteoporosis. Vitamin B6, okay, which is required for the dopamine and 5-hydroxytryptamine. So these are the neurotransmitters for their synthesis. Vitamin B6 is required, and if there is deficiency of the B6, it will result in the seizures, chronic pain, depression, headache, Parkinson's disease. Okay, and that will decrease the homocysteine level also. Vitamin D is required along with the calcium. Okay, and vitamin E, that has an antioxidant effect. So it has a mixed evidence that will benefit in the prostate or the other different types of cancers. So this was all about the vitamins. The third example is a botanical supplements. So what are these botanical supplements? These are the herbal products or phytomedicines. Okay, these are called as herbal medicines or phytomedicines. You can see in the dietary supplements, as the name suggests, botanical dietary supplements. These are the herbal products. So they may be fresh or the dried product. They may be liquid or the solid extract or the of the leaves. Okay, they may be tablet, capsules, powders, or tea bags. Okay, and the exact mechanism of these botanical products, this is not so clear, but the health benefit and safety can be evaluated by the various studies and the meta-analysis. Okay, so here are some examples. You must all be aware of the aloe vera, then black cohosh, then cranberry. Cranberry is used in the prevention of the UTI and H. pylori infections. Cranberry juice. Okay, aloe vera for healing wounds, various skin conditions, diabetes, asthma, osteoarthritis. Okay, astragalus, it is used to enhance the immunity. Okay, then ginkgo, this is used in the Alzheimer's, dementia, intermittent claudication. Ginseng is used as it has a beneficial effect on the immune system. Okay, then soya, this is used in the cardiovascular risk factors. Yeah, it will improve the cardiovascular risk factors, improve the cardiac function, and they will have a improvement in the menopausal symptoms also. Okay, there are some side effects of these herbs also, like aloe vera will cause the abdominal cramps, diarrhea. or it may cause the hypoglycemia in the diabetics. So no medication should be given without the doctor's advice. So we can say the herbal medicines, they can say the herbal medicines they don't have a side effect and all, but we can see there are the many side effects by the botanical products also. The flax seeds and oils, they interfere with the other medications, absorption of the other medications, absorption of the other nutrients also. Then ginkgo or ginseng will cause the headache, nausea, GI upset. Okay. Then the next example is the probiotics. So I hope you have heard this term earlier, probiotics, because we heard a lot of time. Okay, because we see a lot of news channels. Okay, like this is fortified with the probiotics and all. So what are these? These are the live microbial food supplements. These are the live microbial food supplements, and that will benefit the person or the host or the patient by improving the intestinal microbial form. Okay, it may be in the yogurt or capsules or pills. So what is the prerequisite for the probiotics? The probiotics, the bacteria should be non-pathogenic with the beneficial effect on the physiological system of the human being. Okay, they should adhere to the gastric mucosa, gastrointestinal mucosa. They should be acid and bile resistant. They should retain the viability during the storage. Okay, most commonly used bacteria are the lactobacilli, bifidobacterium, saccharomyces boulardii, and streptococcus thermophilus. These are the commonly used bacteria for the probiotic use. So in which cases this can be used and when to use that? What is the rationale for the use of the probiotics? Okay, the various studies have been conducted, and they have said that the prevention of the recurrent UTI and vaginal infections, the probiotics are very helpful. Infectious diarrhea, that will reduce the incidence of the diarrhea and facilitate the recovery, especially in the AIDS patients. Okay, the or the when we use the broad spectrum antibiotic, and that is and the patient develop the diarrhea, that is antimicrobial associated diarrhea. So in that cases we can use the probiotics. Okay, lactose malabsorption, lactobacillus or streptococcus thermophilus contains the glycosides in the cells. So in that cases the probiotics can be used. Inflammatory bowel disease, okay, that will inhibit the cytokines, okay, like TNF alpha. And in the pathogenesis of the inflammatory bowel disease, there is a increased TNF alpha. Okay, so probiotics can be used in this in allergic conditions, especially food allergies, that will increase the IgA production. So in that conditions we can use the probiotics. But there are some problems with the probiotics, because like non viability of the organisms, they need the strict storage conditions, okay, or the control conditions or the instructions for the storage. Okay, because if the storage is not proper, they will not be viable. Okay, transfer of resistance, for example, if that organism has shown the resistance, there is an increased risk in the immunocompromised individuals. Okay, there is another similar term is known as prebiotics. Earlier we studied probiotics, now we will study the prebiotics. So what do you mean by prebiotics? These are the non digestible food ingredients, okay, but they will selectively stimulate the growth cell of the number of the bacteria in the colon, that will stimulate the growth of the certain types of bacteria in the colon. Okay, for example, what happens when there is a short chain carbohydrates, that will resist the digestions, that will not get digested in the body. Okay, and that will get fermented in the colon and produces the acetate and butyrate. So this can be used for a longer period of time. The next we have a purified nutritional supplements. So what is that? So best example is a melatonin. So melatonin release coincides with the darkness, like it increased at night. This their source or the increase in the melatonin starts at 9 p.m. to up to 4 a.m. in the morning. So in the daylight will inhibits it release. So it is used in the jet lag and the sleep disorders. We use a melatonin. Okay. It is claimed that it can be used as a contraception, antioxidants, prevention for aging, depression, HIV, and different types of cancers. But use is not recognized or not authentic. It is recognized only in the jet lags and sleep disorders. Okay. This was all about the nutraceuticals chapter. Thank you so much for your patient listening.